Welcome to Power Up, the podcast that uncovers the unique challenges women leaders face today. Join your hosts, Nat and Kristen, as we dive into the tough topics and provide actionable insights you can apply right now. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any episodes.
Hello. This is a question from a Powrsuiter, and I'll read out the question and then we'll crack into a Minisode, which we highly encourage everyone to send us their questions, by the way. If you have a question for us, send it through hello@powrsuit.com and we will answer it on an upcoming Minisode. This one. I am married to someone who's fantastic, but not doing their share. I do all the cooking, cleaning, childcare, and have a full-time job. And of course, feel like I'm always failing. Help.
The old division of labor.
Yeah.
This is the juggle, and this is one of the key themes that comes up in our power sessions. We've been addressing key themes that have come up in our power sessions over the past few weeks, and what a great way to tackle this one through Minisode.
We've got a couple of different points to make about this. And I wonder if we start by defining the first one, which is define household work as work. And I think one of the things, I've written some notes about this because for me, one thing that's become very obvious, and this is probably the case in the workforce as well, is a lot of our work is invisible. We talk a lot about invisible labour, and my mum used to rage about this all the time, that when we had a barbecue and people came over, my mother would decide that we were having a barbecue. She would figure out the date, she would organise all the guests, send out the invites, do all the planning, tell them what plates to bring, plan the menu, go to the supermarket, make all the salads. And then as everyone left, they'd say to my dad, thanks for the barbecue, because he stood at the barbecue and flipped the meat. And mum was always like, he didn't organise the barbecue. But all her work was invisible.
I have two half stories, and I say two half stories because I won't do them justice because they were fleeting posts that I've seen. But one is a real trend that I've seen where it's usually with a partner or a friend, and it's like, you know, you're the planner that plans the holiday and you've got kind of everything sorted in the itinerary, and it shows the person flipping through the photos, and then it's got the funny music where it's like, and this is the friend that just tags along, and it's the shambly one who's late with the one suitcase, and you just think the whole holiday has been planned for that person who probably has no idea what has gone into that. So that's the first thing I've seen that's gone around that I know so many can relate to in a number of different situations. And the second was this morning I saw a delayed post on International Women's Day, and it was from a guy who ran a business who basically said, thank you to my partner who holds the sky up. And I really liked that she held the sky up and did all of this invisible work so that society could carry on and do what we do so easily every day.
Amazing. Although hashtag move beyond thinking and start contributing. But I think when we define it, so going back to point one, defining household work as work, because we have so many invisible tasks, it's really easy to not see them. And so I think in this case, if you asked your husband, I'm sure he thinks he probably contributes quite equally, because all he sees is the tasks that he sees. And he is not seeing all the rest of it. We notice this at work, like we said. We notice it even friends of mine who are single parents, that the number of times their ex-husbands will text them being like, when does school start again? Or, what is the camp fees again? And they're still taking on all this invisible work.
Yeah.
And so I think we'll get to some solutions soon, but recognizing and finding a way to identify all the work and bring that invisible work into the spotlight, I think is the first thing.
Yeah, and I don't think it's good enough to just stop doing it, because that will probably stress you out and things will start to fall apart, which will irritate you. And I use an example. I remember when I felt like I was always making kids snacks and lunches and all of that stuff, and I thought, I'm just going to stop. But it just doesn't work, because eventually the pull of needing to just stuff to keep happening.
Especially when it comes to kids, and you're like, I don't want my kids to sacrifice you. I did that once with an ex-boyfriend in our toilet. He never cleaned the toilet and I just left it. And when mold started growing out of it, I was just like, I can't.
Yeah, I think ignoring and just going, I'm going to stop doing this is an okay short-term and understandable reaction. However,
I think there's better options. I think we'll get to some better options.
We're going to get some better options.
Because I think it's making that invisible work visible is the first one.
Yeah. And the second is I really think there's value in examining ideas about gender here. It's really hard to live in the society without having an idea about women's work and men's work. And that would have been something that would have literally been spoken aloud in the last decade. And so we've learned these ideas. They feel natural. That could be household work as historically been classified as women's work, but we see it in the office too. So the admin associated with running the office is generally women's work, right down to nursing versus policing. It's kind of women's and caring and versus...
Yeah. There's a really good way of splitting this is traditionally we've sort of thought of inside work as women's work and outside work as men's work. So in a household, often men take out the rubbish and remember the recycling and mow the lawns and do odd jobs. And there's been a bunch of research into this, and those jobs usually occur maybe once a week or once a month, but there is the sense that they are equal to the inside work because you're like outside, inside split. And so really just examining how often those jobs are done in comparison to, everything that has to happen inside multiple times a day. And you start to realize that gender split that feels quite logical because we've been raised with it may not be that natural.
Yeah. So we're saying ditch the gender split, and we'll come to solutions in a minute. But the last one is there is a real difference between helping and sharing. And what is meant by this point was that helping, I just need your help to take child to this or that, or I just need more help around the house. That person now doesn't really take responsibility for the thing getting done or holding the sky up. They're simply just helping you out, which is very different to sharing the load. And we need effectively a partnership here in running this household. Very different.
Yeah, it's the classic thanking the dad for babysitting his own children because he's helping the mum look after the children rather than sharing the load of parenting. Yeah, so I agree, because I think that's an easy one to fall into. If you just let me know what I need to do, I'll do it. And letting someone know what to do is actually a job in itself. And sometimes, again, that falls under those invisible job category. So should we tell them some quick actions to take? Because this one actually feels like there's some really simple solutions.
Yes, I am actually gonna just start with number one being start the discussion. And so all of the things we talked about above are worthy of calling a meeting, a family meeting, whatever that might be. Could be an office meeting if this is the workplace admin. Call a meeting and start to define work, be it invisible or not, but all the things that need doing to get this thing done. Start to raise conversation about ideas around gender, and then ideas around ownership and responsibility versus just helping out.
I love it. I would take that one step further and write down every single job that needs to happen around the house. And I was thinking about this. My girlfriend went away yesterday, and I'm like scrubbing the skirting boards and taking all the things down from the above the oven stove thing and all of that stuff. All of those things are jobs around the house. And when you actually write down every single task that contributes to every single job. I did it just before supermarket shopping. It's thinking about what meals to cook, identifying the gaps in your pantry, going to the supermarket, organizing childcare if you leave your children at home, getting all the soup, like all of those jobs are all individual tasks. So my first one / the second one is to actually write them all down and get both of you to write down all those tasks you do, right down to those really, really small things. And I think that'll help you start to visualize the amount of work that happens around the house. And you may find that they do some invisible tasks as well.
And then I think once we've got that list together, there's some value in going through the list and agreeing to what should be done weekly, what should be done monthly. Are there things that can actually be knocked off the list that just aren't important in this season of life if it's a hectic one? And then, of course, to agree on the minimum standard associated with each of those things. Like, what does vacuuming look like? Is it under the beds, or is it just a quick vacuum around the house?
And do you need to clean all the toys up every night? Do you? Because I'm someone who likes to have the dishes done before I go to bed. Kyla likes to do them in the morning. Like, that's actually inaccurate. We split it around. But knowing that, you're like, rather than getting frustrated, you've agreed what you both think is the minimum standard or when it could be done. And so you're not getting angry about it.
Yep, agreed.
Well, then I'd say the next one is, what can you pay to make go away? And this sounds like it kind of reeks of privilege, but There are ways you can do this if it's a short term, if you're going through a particularly hectic time. A friend of mine just got a new role. She's paid for someone to come and deep clean her house. Like, what is the chores you can make go away, be it for a week, be it for forever? Are there things like gardening, lawn mowing, cleaning, childcare, whatever it is? Can you pay to make some of those those meal services? Can you pay for some of those to go away? And I think in the case of those meal prep services, I think some of the maths people have done on it is you actually end up sort of square money-wise because you don't waste any of your...
Yeah. There are seasons. Is your time better spent doing something else?
Because that's that, I don't want to say martyr situation, but that when you start to think I have to do everything and I have to do it perfectly, you actually don't. You've got other stuff to do, and freeing up your mind is kind of important for that.
I agree. Next step would be divide the doing, and this is where you've got your list and you're now, rather than splitting it based on gender, you have a sense of how often these things need doing, and it's effectively just splitting it based on what people like to do. Start with that. What is it that you like to do? What is it that I like to do? And then start with that split. And a special addition to this one is that you should actually give up the title of household manager, because we're now at a task level where you can actually own that task. So that means you have to project manage everything associated with that task and you own it. Whereas I think if you're still the one that considers yourself the manager of the house, you're still going to be lumped with someone helping you. So I think I would get rid of that title and get down to the task level and just completely own that task from end to end. And then you don't need to think about the ones that aren't assigned to you.
I love it. So in our household, Kyla owns the cooking. I literally do not think about cooking ever. And it's so great to have it off my mind. And so we've done that kind of split. The other split that I've heard that works really, really well is almost the exact opposite of taking on the role of household manager. But as you would know in the workplace, if you are the manager, you are not the doer. So if you find you are in a relationship with someone who wants to help and wants to be told what to do, great. You will tell them what to do, but you won't do a thing.
Yeah.
You will organise the shopping list. You'll know when the school trips are. You'll know when fees need to be paid, but they will do. You'll give them a list and they have to go do all of it. You don't unstack the dishwasher, but you know it needs to be done. So you can actually swing it both ways. Either you break down tasks by what you want to do and some level of fairness, and that could look different for everyone, or you actually just go, I'm the thinker, you're the doer.
Yeah, and I refer back to that minimum standard because if you have someone else doing that task, you've got to let it go and you've got to let them do that task. And I just remember seeing new mums who freaked out when their partners would bathe the baby because their necks weren't clean, and I'm thinking in my head, who cares? Yeah, so there's this concept of minimum standard and just let it go, because you're not the one that needs to fill their brains with it anymore.
Absolutely. And I think on that front, you can kind of be your own worst enemy. And I know people who are kind of guilty of this, of sort of hovering over someone because you're the expert at it. You've done it for so long, and now you want to get your partner to do it. But then when they start to do it, and they'll be feeling nervous and they'll be aware that they've kind of dropped the ball and that they don't know it as much as you, and you're hovering over telling them that they're doing it wrong, easiest way to stop them doing it.
Yeah.
If they have done it 10, 20 times, they will get better.
Yeah.
So just let it slide for a while if you can.
I
Go out for a walk, watch some TV, get away from the situation.
Yeah.
I think my mum does that sometimes. She's like, I just
situation.
sometimes leave the house.
Yeah. And if you're not loving dinner, tough luck. Just eat it.
Yeah.
Just eat it. But so you're going to just talk about a game, Nat. However, I just wanted to summarize those actions. You've got the first one, which can sometimes be the hardest, but it's the most important, is just to have a conversation. You have to call a family meeting and you just have to say, this is how I'm feeling. No blame, no pointing fingers, no nothing. Just have a discussion. Chat about all of the invisible work that's getting done, appreciate what the other partner is indeed doing, bring gender up and fair division of labor as it relates to what you love to do and don't love to do, and then act. And we've given some everything from making the list to dividing the list, agreeing to minimum standards, paying to make it go. But you've got a game as well.
This game is called Fair Play. And it sort of takes this whole job off you. So they have a really cute card game. You lay out the cards, you select the ones that you currently do, you work through exactly the process effectively that we've just talked about. You divide it up. I think there's a little bit of instructions around it to help you understand how to divvy things up, and it just kind of gets the conversation going, and then you can take your card set and that's yours. So we will link to it, I believe, in the podcast notes. But I just think it's such a clever way. I was actually at a birthday party yesterday, and she got given a card game for her birthday that was like conversation starters in long-term relationships. It was so cool. And I think this is just another one that it's not about blaming anyone. It's just about going, how do we do this better? Let's make it into an activity. Let's take an experimental mindset, do this for the first week, review it after the week, and see how everyone's feeling. And you might find it diffuses the situation, and because you're not as angry and frustrated, and they're more aware of all the stuff that they may not be aware of, and you might become aware of some other stuff that you weren't aware of, you're sort of getting onto a better track and a positive spiral.
I hope that helped. Again, as Nat mentioned up top, make sure you're asking us at hello@powrsuit.com to solve some of your challenges that you're facing. Check out powrsuit.com for our new membership network. It's so exciting. We announced it last week. We're opening up the floodgates on March 20th, and we'd love to see you there. We thank our foundation partners, who are Contact Energy, Zero, City Care, Property, and Smart Chairs. And if you want to be a foundation partner, or if you think your organization should be involved, again, reach out at hello@powrsuit.com, and looking forward to catching you next time. Bye!